I was going and doing the job that I do.
You're going to Deloraine?
Yeah, Deloraine. And this horse I was riding at the time, it fell, and I was thrown, but I was doing off the track. So yeah, and I fell, and yeah.
I got that scary phone call that Rachelle had a fall, and I'm like, oh yeah, thinking, oh yeah, she's broken her arm or something. And they're going, oh no, Kerrin, this is serious. She's being flown. They're flying her to Hobart.
When I first got the first phone call to do with Rachelle, that was pretty scary, because it was only 6 months before that I'd been over to Tassie, because Rachelle had broken 6 ribs in a fall. She hadn't long got back to racing, and I just naturally thought, when they first rang and said she'd had a fall again, I just naturally thought it was going to be broken bones again. But then, and so I rang the hospital in Launceston and said, you know, what's happening with her, and do I need to come over, tomorrow or in a couple of days, or where's she going to be? And they turned around and said, I don't think you quite understand that we're going to try and stabilise her enough to get her to Hobart, and hopefully she'll be alive when she gets there.
I remember I was meeting Mum and my brother at the airport at the same time, and here I am waiting, you know, for Mum's plane to come in, and Rochelle's plane came first, and it was one of those unplanned, that was just, it had to come first, and it absolutely horrified me, what I saw. It horrified me to the point that I've had a lot of nightmares over it for numerous years. And of course, because I saw it, I didn't speak a word, and then Mum arrived in the plane, and I literally, I never spoke a word for hours. I just sort of said, okay, let's go to the hospital, and then Mum had...
God, thank you, I'm so sorry.
No, you weren't to know. I was quite okay to begin with, but that first time when I went in to see Rachelle, when we got the okay to go and see her, I was quite horrified, because I kept seeing my head on Rochelle's body, and although that sounds extremely weird, it troubled me a little bit. I kept riding track work, and at that stage I was getting very close to race riding. I had my second race ride 2 days after Rochelle's accident.
Lots of people actually abused us for allowing Kerrin to still ride. We actually got abused for it. We were told we were idiots, we were stupid and that, but you got to remember, Kerrin was 19 at the time, I think, 18, 19. I mean, she was an adult. She was living in Tasmania with Rachelle. It wasn't like, it wasn't like, you know, she was still at home at school and I could tell her what to do. She had already been living independently with her own life, managing her own money and earning her own keep. I couldn't tell her, don't get on another horse. That was her career. And the same with Rachelle, you know, like, that was their career. They had chosen that just like anyone else chooses a career. So I didn't feel I had the right to tell Kerrin, you know, you give up your career now because of what's happened. That's, you know, that's just not right to do that.
You know, I just started getting my confidence back and, you know, being really happy with, you know, how things were going and Rochelle's progress, and she was starting to make quite a lot. And then the horse I was riding got a small fright on the way to the racecourse that morning, and it was very unsettled with me riding her around, and unfortunately I chose to attempt to ride her home because I had sort of figured the most of the unsettling I'd already gone through it, but unfortunately when I got back to that same track or same road, she got extremely unsettled again, and yeah, unfortunately I was told by one of the riders I was riding with, you know, Kerrin, kick your feet out and get off and just walk her back. And well, I attempted that. I kicked my feet out and she took off, and there was no way I was clearing off a horse. Very few jockeys will clear off a horse, especially when it's not on a race course. Like, it was just in open roads, and no one does that. So I just hoped that I could win her back or calm her down or settle her enough to be able to get my feet back in the irons, or at least to steer her back to a position where I could pull her up. And unfortunately a fence and an extremely large gum tree got in my way. I was thinking of steering her towards the gateway where the tree was, and I think at the last minute the horse chose not me, and the first branch was head height for me. You know, plenty of people say, oh, why didn't you duck? Well, you're trying your best, but at the last minute it's a bit of a flash decision. I don't recall a lot of it.
Got the phone call to say meet us at the hospital, Bendigo Hospital, and before I could even organise myself, the phone rang again, and they said, no, you better come to where she's had the accident. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, God, no, she's busted something for sure, you know. But then when they did ring back and say, look, there's been a hold up, they're still here, I started to wonder. I thought that sounds a bit more serious. And then by the time I got there and saw 2 ambulances and then slowly getting her into the thing and everyone around, I thought, oh no, and the police were there, and I thought, oh, this is bad, this is really bad. While I was waiting anyway, I rang Jace in Tasmania, naturally, because that's where he still was, to tell him, and he was at his job. And I said to him, look, you've got to get to the airport straight away. You've got to fly back. Kerrin's had an accident the same as Rochelle's. She's got head injuries and they're going to fly her to Royal Melbourne. And his reaction was, Mum, that is the sickest joke you have ever said. And I said to him, no, joke, this is not a joke. He said, Mum, cut it out. He said, I'm at work. He said, that's a sick joke. He said, you don't want to wish that on anybody.
For me, it would have been probably 2 years by the time I realised, yeah, no, it's not possible. Because I was pretty sure I was going to try and make it back. But unfortunately, I can't feel one foot very well, which makes me extremely dangerous to keep riding.
I still wish I had a ride, I reckon, now.
Des O'Keefe, who has a lot to do with RBL and the National Jockeys Trust, he happened to call us up and said, look, you know, I'd like to be able to help in some way, and we were like, well, you know, quite shocked at the idea because, and he's like, well, you've never helped, you've never asked for help. And we were more, well, in the early days we didn't even know we could. Rachelle was given a grant to purchase a newer car, as her car was costing a hell of a lot of money, just with the upkeep on it. So for Rachelle that was an extremely good thing. Des originally wanted to buy a van outright for me, and I had explained that I'd strongly prefer a large deposit so that I could get a loan to pay it off myself, because that was something I wanted to be able to achieve that, and you know, I felt that that was my next independent step. I'm so grateful and proud of my mum for all that she's given up, and all that she's researched, and all the things and the time that she's given to make sure that at the end of the day we are at our capable best. And you know, if Mum can support us along the way, I think it's something that very few parents would do. I think a lot of parents would like to do it, but just wouldn't have the time, the patience, you know, or the flexibility, or whatever it is. I don't know that every parent would cope with what Mum has coped with. I'm saying that there's been times where Mum probably has struggled, but she's come over the other side of the fence and she's doing quite well. So, you know, there's been times where Mum's questioned it, but anyway, like at the end of the day, I think it's applaudable. And I think there should be more mums that are like that. It would be fabulous to see more mums like that. But, you know, it's a lot of hardship, but it's very applaudable anyway.
Where to from here?
What's next?
Oh, I don't know. I think we'll just stick with what we've got at the moment. Everything's pretty cool at the moment. It's pretty good. Everything I think is finally starting to fall into place. I think we're doing pretty good.